Hello everyone. I'm making some food. I'm gonna talk to you while I make it. What I'm making is kind of like just a fun way to eat apples because I have a lot of apples. I just bought a few dozen pounds of apples, and this is a fun way to eat them. I'm gonna chop them up and I'm gonna pour date sauce over them. And while I prepare it, I'm going to talk to you. I love fruit because it's just intuitive to me. I don't think about it that hard. It just makes sense. I was just walking outside and I was thinking about all these things that you can do to get more healthy, and sometimes it's really difficult because you get confused. You forget why you're doing it. And it's really easy to think like, man, I'm gonna die someday anyway, so why not just, go out with a bang and eat junk food and do drugs and, wreck your body, be lazy, play video games. I've done all these things in my life, of course, and just kind of like try not to get myself too down about it. And so what is the reason then? Well, it's just, I just can't stand it personally. Everyone has a different experience, but I just can't stand it. Oh, by the way, after I core the apples, I cut off the end that just has the little butt. I don't try to get every tiny little last piece of it, but this end that just has like the opposite end of the stem, I eat that. A lot of people chuck it, but it's all good. There's just like a little extra fiber in there. If you're lucky, it caught onto some dirt. But anyways, what is the reason? Well, personally, I just can't stand it. Like, when I'm unhealthy, it feels fun to do the things that bring you there, but it's kind of just this burst of feeling. And then afterwards, you're left feeling empty. And it's like, if you want to lead an unhealthy life, you have to be constantly pleasure seeking, or it just isn't worth it. And it's just not possible to sustain that sort of lifestyle. I'm always having to go back to the basics of health in order to feel happy. Health is really the only sustainable way to be happy. When you seek happiness from unhealthy behaviors, which may be exciting, after it's over, you're not going to be happy anymore. So why not just, take it a little easy on yourself and, go with the ups and downs. It's all good. You can just kind of, walk through the hard times. Don't expect to be like explosively happy all the time, because that's not really, you can't really expect that. Think of all the conditioning that we've gone through. There's so much sadness in the world. You can't expect that just because you start eating lots of apples, you're all of a sudden just going to be smiling and happy all the time. And then so you start to feel sadness coming on, and that's when you really want to try something kind of explosive and exciting and unhealthy, to make you feel happy. But it just goes in circles, then you feel like crap, and then you have to do something even more explosive, even more stimulating to make yourself feel good. It's a trap. Make it easy for yourself to be happy by being healthy. I've been thinking a lot about a lot of different things. I've been thinking about how it is kind of interesting. The times when I'm absolutely most inspired to be healthy is when I'm like the most sick. And I look at people who succeed on, for instance, raw vegan diets. It's not an easy thing to do. The people who are succeeding the most on these diets, I notice, if you look at their backstories, one thing that they have in common is that they come from a background of intense sickness. Cancer, or diabetes, or obesity. And so it's almost like, intense pain really kind of pushes you forward. It's interesting how that works. It inspires you. And I notice that, it's when I'm most stimulated. It is the times in my life that I made myself most stimulated with anything, drugs or junk food or whatever. It's while I'm doing that I'm feeling the most inspired to get healthy again, because I do it and it's like these fleeting moments of joy and pleasure, very, 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 very quickly replaced with just feelings of just no feeling, just vacuous experience. And I don't want to. And so and then I started to think, oh my gosh, yeah, I should have just stayed healthy. Even though I wanted this junk food, I wanted these drugs, so intensely. But it's just not going to help you be happy in the long term. So I'm cutting up 10 apples. It's kind of like what I'm comfortable eating. If I eat more than 10 apples, which I can if I want to, but what happens if I eat more than 10 apples is I start feeling my body temperature rise. It's kind of an interesting experience. And for me, and it just, it starts really making my stomach move a lot. And that's cool, it's a fun experience, but I don't need to do that. I'll just, lay off on that and maybe eat something else later if I'm hungry, no need to go too crazy. But yeah, 10 apples is pretty good, and then it'll be fun to throw those dates on there, because I already had 10 apples for breakfast. This is my lunch. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I'll probably have another 10 apple snack before dinner time. Dinner, I'm going to make some collard green wraps. I'm going to make a video about that too, most likely. I also wrote a song last night, and I'm going to make a video of that as well. Turns out this is just the day for videos. I realize I may seem kind of somber right now, but I'm just kind of in the zone. Just been kind of having a lot of thoughts and everything. Feeling really just well, I don't need to put on an act about like who I am, because I'm really awesome, like exactly the way I am. You know, I don't need to like pretend to be anything but that. So I'm not like trying too hard to act all smiling and whatever. Oh, these apples are super good. They got sweetness and tanginess, which makes sense because they got the red and the green. Awesome. Great balance. Very fun. Yes, apples it is. It's persimmon season. I'm gonna go into the grocery store later today. I'm gonna see if they have some good organic persimmons. They're just starting to come in, nice and ripe. And persimmons are just one of my favorite fruits, but you can't really find them. It's difficult to find a good ripe persimmon, except like exactly during persimmon season. It's just one of those fruits. Like, you can find decent apples, oranges, and bananas, you know, basically any time of the year. Persimmons, not so much. If you like persimmons, you really gotta go for it during persimmon season. Kind of like mangoes. I mean, if it's not mango season from, you know, wherever you're getting the mangoes from, Peru or Mexico or Ecuador or what have you, Costa Rica, just don't go for mangoes. It's just not happening. Persimmons are kind of the same way. You really have to get them in season. It is persimmon season. I am so psyched. I'll show you. See, this guy is just getting. I mean, it's just mush in there, and that's what a good persimmon is like. And what I like to do is I just like open up a little hole and just suck out the gush, the mush, the gushy mush inside. And it's basically, it's really quite divine. Quite divine. I think, in my opinion, my taste bud opinion, I could have done a cool thing with just like taking the apples and like, or using a mandolin and making slices like this, and then putting banana slices on that, and then making a date sauce to pour over it and having like a little, you know, treat. But my bananas aren't ripe yet. I was just learning about fruit storage this morning. Doing a lot of learning lately, just so I can continue to improve my health. And I got this great idea about ripening bananas. So I have like 40 pounds of them. And so I put a third of them in the fridge. I put a third of them in the open air in the kitchen, and I put a third of them in a cupboard. And the idea is that I'll get ripe bananas over time. different stages so that I don't all of a sudden have to eat 40 pounds of ripe bananas. And if I miss some, I can just throw them in the freezer, and that's always fun, but I prefer to eat them fresh. I love apples. I love apples. Good organic apples. Really like to try to support organic farms as much as possible. You know, sometimes the price is just not happening, or sometimes the produce is just low quality, in which case I'm not going to support them. But if at all possible and viable and good for my health, I try to get the organic ones. It's just, you know, that's just the kind of culture I want to live in. That's just the kind of economy that I want to support. Is, you know, a low chemical economy. It just makes sense. Simplify the human experience, you know. Eliminate as many chemicals from the human experience as possible. We, in this day and age, we've been taught how to live a certain way. And all we know is chemicals. All we know is synthetics. That's all that we've been taught from age 0. Our parents and our parents' parents. That's how we know how to live, you know. So it's really difficult to eliminate all chemicals from our lives. And so just do the best you can. Just put the brakes on. No need to be a crazy hippie about it. Just put the brakes on. Okay, that looks like all my apples, which just happen to fit perfectly into that bowl. Now I'm going to make a date sauce. I feel bad about blending these dates because they are incredible. They are like... They are just goo. I bought these dates from the farmer. It's the best way to do it. They're super fresh. Grown with love. They're organic. I love California. I love dates. So I'm just going to put some water in there. I don't know how much. Just enough. Pit these dates. You know, you just have to kind of experiment with this to see how much water you'll need. And just practice, and if you really only need just a little bit, though, I will tell you that. This is the first date in a big box of dates. That is not good. So that's a good sign. Usually I find a couple, like in just, you know, in those like usually a lot of times they sell dates in like a pound at a time. And I always, at the grocery store, you know, in the packaged ones, I always find at least a couple in there that aren't good. But getting them fresh from the farmer, I found only one out of like a dozen pounds that was bad. So that makes me happy. Yeah, these guys are just so amazing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for blinding you. That's okay. I'll get over it. The dates will get over it. Veganism is really easy to do. It's not like raw food, which is not easy. Yeah. A lot of people, once they get really raw, everything clicks and they say, "Oh, it's so easy." But, and people have different levels of motivation and everything. And a lot of these people that are saying, "Oh yeah, I just went raw and stayed that way," they were doing it to save their life. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot easier for those kind of people. Myself, I was pretty, relatively healthy. Like, my whole life, So a lot of times it's a lot easier for me to kind of lose sight of why I'm doing this. That reason being, it's just intuitive that you would eat this way, that you would eat raw food. It's good for your health. It's good for the planet. It's, maybe it is a kind of a snapback because there's just so many chemicals, so much processing, so much consumerism, so much packaging that that I just have to snap back and be like, whoa, I need to eat way more raw food, Maybe if society was a little bit more, nature centric, it wouldn't be so important to me to eat so much fresh food. Maybe I wouldn't freak out about it as much and say, whoa, cooked food, big problem. But the fact of the matter is, I've been pushed, and every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and so I feel like I have been pushed really hard by society in the direction of chemicals and consumerism, slow death, easy pleasure. And I really felt very pushed very hard in that direction. And this is me pushing very hard back. I'm just going to blend this up real quick. It's probably about, I'm going to say 2/3 of a pound of dates. Something like that. Maybe closer to half a pound. BRB. Holy cow. I love dates. It's basically like date butter. You could use this as as kind of like a faux, raw butter, what have you. Now, if you wanted to be professional, you could use a spatula, but I'm just going to use my fingers to get the rest of this out of this here blender. Just don't do that while the blender's on, Oh yes, I do love a blender, a good blender. Date butter, just effortlessly. It's actually kind of fun to do this with my finger because then my fingers just become really delicious treats. Okay, that looks good. I'm just gonna rinse my hands off. Okay, now I'll just spread that in there. What have you. You could put a little bit of cinnamon in that date butter, and that would be awesome. It's a pretty good, flavor combo with the apples. And like I said, or you could add banana slices to this, that would be good, or maybe cherries, if you're so inclined. So, that's pretty awesome. It's very high energy food. And see, it's, steak is high energy food as well. But the thing is, you won't really you won't really have as much energy left over after you eat a steak as when you eat this. This is just full of water. It's very clean. The difference between energy from plants and energy from animal products is that, well, you already have energy inside you. There's electricity inside you. And plants versus animals, in terms of food, the plant foods just they stay out of the way, They just allow your body to run because they're just full of water, fiber, just cleaning you out. Animal foods, they block you up. And particularly fresh foods, fresh fruits, fresh watery plants, just going to kind of get out of your way, in terms of your ability to express your energy. Oh yes, I do love fresh fruit. Okay, see you next video. You can subscribe to these videos. I make a lot of them. This one was kind of long-winded and random, but I'm just kind of in the mood for making a video, so I did. See you next time.